Have you ever just stopped and thought about how incredibly clever life on Earth is? I mean, you've got creatures glowing down in the dark oceans, others flying thousands of miles.
It really is amazing. The animal kingdom is just full of these, mysteries and unbelievable ways of surviving.
Exactly. And that's what we're diving into today. Zoology. It's the science that tries to make sense of it all, understand animal life.
Yeah, our goal here is basically to give you the essentials. We're pulling out the really key ideas from zoology, the core stuff.
Right. Kind of a shortcut to getting the big picture, hopefully giving you some of those aha moments.
hmm So you look at the animals around you, maybe even in your backyard, a bit differently, with fresh eyes.
So you can expect us to explore how animals actually work, their bodies, why they behave the way they do.
And importantly, how human activity impacts them. That's a big one.
Definitely. We want to connect those tiny details,
hmm
maybe how one animal functions, to the huge picture of like global ecosystems,
Mm,
show how it all fits together.
it really does all link up.
Okay, so let's unpack this. If we want to understand animals, I mean, where do you even start? It feels huge.
It is huge. But zoology, it breaks things down. It's not just one giant subject. It's more like a toolkit with different fields, different ways of looking.
Ah, okay. Like different lenses.
Exactly. Different lenses. Each gives you a unique view. So first up, you've got ethology.
Okay, ethology, what's that lens show us?
That's all about behavior. So instincts, yes, but also learning how animals communicate their social lives.
So like why wolves hunt in packs or how bees tell each other where the good flowers are?
Precisely. Think about crows using tools. That's ethology. Or complex dolphin communication. It digs into their minds almost.
Fascinating. Okay, so that's what they do. What about the machinery behind it all? How their bodies, allow them to do that stuff?
Right. That brings us to physiology. This is the how it works part. How their organs, their systems all function.
Like how a hummingbird's heart beats so fast, or how a fish breathes underwater.
Exactly that. Or how some animals survive insane temperatures or pressures. Physiology gets into the nitty-gritty of the biological engineering. And closely related is anatomy.
Anatomy. That's the structure, right? Bones, muscle.
Yep, the physical structure. From the tiniest cells up to whole organs, physiology is the function, anatomy is the form. They go hand in hand.
Got it. Form and function. So we know what they do, how their bodies work.
Hmm.
How do they fit into the bigger world?
Now you're talking ecology. That's the lens for interactions, how animals interact with each other and with their whole environment, plants, climate, everything.
So predator-prey relationships, that kind of thing.
That, but also symbiosis, competition, how they shape their habitats. Think about beavers building dams. That's ecology in action. It's all about the connections.
Okay, and you mentioned organizing all this diversity.
That's taxonomy.
Yeah.
Basically classification. How scientists group animals, name them, figure out who's related to who based on evolution, genetics, structure.
So it's like the family tree of the animal kingdom.
Pretty much. It helps us make sense of the sheer number of species and understand biodiversity. It's the essential filing system.
Okay, that framework makes sense. But you mentioned studying them in the wild earlier. Why is that so important? Can't we learn most of this in a lab?
Well, you can learn some things in a lab, specific things, but the key thing is animals often behave really differently when they're not in their natural homes.
Right, it's not the real world for them.
Exactly. The wild is where you see the true picture. Their real social interactions, how they actually hunt or avoid being hunted, how they cope with weather changes or find mates.
Stuff that gets lost in translation in a controlled setting.
Totally. You miss the nuances, the pressures, the choices they make in response to their actual environment. The wild is where the real story plays out.
Okay, so wild studies show us what they do naturally. Let's circle back to physiology then. How does understanding their internal workings, their health, help us?
Oh, hugely. Physiology is like having the blueprint for an animal's body. So if something goes wrong, if they get sick, understanding their normal physiology helps vets and scientists figure out why. What system isn't working correctly?
So it's crucial for diagnosing problems.
Absolutely. And for developing treatments, too. Plus, it helps us understand how different animals are built to survive in wildly different places, how one animal conserves water in a desert versus another that stays warm in the Arctic. That's all physiology.
Yeah, the range is just incredible. Which brings us to adaptations. I mean, how do they manage to live everywhere, from scorching deserts to frozen tundras?
Adaptations. It's evolution's answer to environmental challenges. These are traits honed over ages that give an animal an edge.
Like camouflage, chameleons. stick insects.
Perfect examples, blending in to avoid predators or ambush prey. Or think about insulation, a polar bear's thick fur and blubber, essential for Arctic survival.
Mm-hmm. Or webbed feet on ducks for swimming.
Exactly. That's an adaptation for locomotion in water. There are countless examples, specialized beaks for specific foods, venom, incredible senses. They're all tools for survival.
Tools to find food, avoid becoming food, and, just live successfully.
Precisely. Adaptations are what allow life to flourish in almost every corner of the planet.
It's clear these animals aren't just living side by side, though. They're interacting all the time. How do these individual adaptations and behaviors fit into that bigger ecosystem dance?
Right, they don't live in bubbles. Every animal plays a role, or often multiple roles.
You mean like predator and prey?
That's a big one, yeah. Those interactions control populations. But there's more. Think about pollinators, bees, butterflies, even some bats and birds.
Crucial for plants and for our food.
Absolutely crucial. Or decomposers, insects, worms, breaking down dead stuff and recycling nutrients back into the soil. Essential.
So they're not just in the ecosystem, they're actively shaping it.
They are the ecosystem in many ways. Their interactions regulate populations, move nutrients around, create habitats. It's this incredibly complex web, and it keeps everything in balance, or tries to. And that balance ultimately affects us, too.
Okay, so this intricate web involves millions of species. You mentioned taxonomy earlier. How do scientists keep track of it all? It seems like an impossible task.
It's definitely a challenge, but that's where taxonomy, the science of classification, is so vital. It's the system for organizing life.
So not just naming, but understanding relationships.
Exactly. It uses physical traits, genetics, evolutionary history to group organisms, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species, that hierarchy.
Right, I remember that from school.
It helps us understand how different groups are related, how diversity evolved. And it's not static. As we learn more, especially with genetics, classifications can change. It gives us a map of life's diversity.
And why is having that map so important, practically speaking?
Well, for one, you need to know what species is before you can study it or conserve it effectively. Taxonomy helps identify species, track their distribution, and assess their conservation status. It underpins a massive amount of biological research.
That makes sense. It seems like a foundation. Which leads me to think about conservation. How does all this knowledge, behavior, physiology, ecology actually help protect endangered species?
It's absolutely fundamental. You can't effectively protect something you don't understand.
Right.
So knowing an animal's habitat needs, its diet, its breeding behavior that comes from ethology and ecology, that helps design effective reserves or wildlife corridors.
Okay.
Understanding their physiology helps vets treat them or helps scientists figure out why their populations might be declining. Maybe they're particularly sensitive to a certain pollutant, for example.
I see.
It also informs captive breeding programs, how to mimic natural conditions, reduce stress, ensure genetic diversity. All that knowledge from different branches of zoology feeds directly into making conservation efforts smarter and more successful.
That really highlights the practical side.
Yeah.
But it also makes me think, what about our role in all this? I mean, what are we doing that affects wildlife?
Yeah, that's the tough part. Human impact is significant, massive.
Like habitat loss.
That's a huge one. Deforestation, draining wetlands, urban sprawl. It destroys or fragments the places animals need to live. Then there's pollution, plastics in the ocean, pesticides in ecosystems.
Climate change, too, I assume.
Absolutely. Climate change is shifting habitats faster than many species can adapt. Overhunting, introducing invasive species.
Yeah.
The list is long, unfortunately.
So what are zoologists doing about that? It sounds overwhelming.
It is a major challenge, but zoologists are crucial here. They study how these impacts affect animals, they monitor populations, identify the biggest threats.
And then try to find solutions.
Exactly. They work on things like designing wildlife crossings over highways, developing ways to restore damaged habitats, advising on sustainable practices, and providing the scientific evidence needed to push for better conservation policies. They're really on the front lines.
So much of this relies on understanding what's happening out there. How is this information actually gathered? How do we get this real-world knowledge?
Through hard work in the field. Field studies are absolutely essential.
So scientists actually going out watching animals.
Yep. Patient observation is key. Tracking animals with GPS tags, using camera traps, collecting samples for genetic or physiological analysis, monitoring population numbers over time.
Boots on the ground, basically.
Boots on the ground, sometimes for months or years in remote places. This direct observation and data collection gives us invaluable insights into how animals really live, interact, and cope with changes in their environment. You just can't get that level of detail any other way. It informs everything else.
Okay, bringing this all together.
Hmm.
We've talked about adaptations, interactions, threats, conservation. Why is keeping all this variety, this biodiversity, so important,
Yeah.
especially for us? What's the big deal?
The big deal is that biodiversity underpins the health of the entire planet, including our own survival.
How so?
Well, diverse ecosystems are more stable and resilient. They can better withstand disturbances like disease outbreaks or climate fluctuations. They provide essential ecosystem services. Clean air and water, pollination of crops, decomposition of waste, climate regulation, fertile soil, things we often take for granted, but that healthy, diverse ecosystems provide.
And resources too, right?
Definitely. Food, medicines, many pharmaceuticals originate from plants or animals' materials. Biodiversity is a massive resource bank. Zoology helps us understand, map, and ultimately protect this vital variety of life. It's not just about saving tigers or pandas, it's about maintaining the systems that keep the whole planet, including us, running.
Wow. Okay. This deep dive really shows how incredibly connected everything is. From like the way one tiny insect is built to the balance of a whole forest to our own well-being.
Every branch of zoology adds a piece to that puzzle. Every interaction matters, and our impact. Well, that's a huge piece too.
It certainly paints a powerful picture.
So maybe as you go about your day, think about all this stuff, the adaptations, the connections, our impact, and maybe look a bit closer at the animal life around you. Could be a bird, an insect, anything.
Right.
And just wonder, what's its story? What unseen struggles or clever tricks are part of its everyday survival? Maybe noticing that makes you ask even bigger questions about the wild world we're all part of.